Welcome back, folks. What can I say? It's been a couple of weeks since I've put a podcast out, and you all know why I take some time to put podcasts out, because I'm always looking for something new and something interesting to talk about and something that's a little bit controversial. And I think I have found something that's going to have a lot of people talking. I find this a fascinating topic. I am very passionate about this topic. You've heard me speak about this topic several times, and that is the prison service. That is what goes on in prisons. And the question I have for people is it corrections or is it the New South Wales Punishment Service? But we're going to get onto that just in a moment, because I'm here with a new producer. I've got Shane with me, and Shane is helping me out, but Shane's also about to start his new show through Iron Monarch Studios called Let's Talk Illawarra. Shane, welcome to my show.
Thanks, Reverend Jim. Greatly appreciate the shout out. I absolutely love it.
Well, you know, I know nothing about the Illawarra. I don't live in the Illawarra. I drive through the Illawarra, and I come up to the Illawarra to record some of my podcasts and spend a bit of time near the beach and then get the hell out of town as quickly as I can.
Oh, how rude.
I know, usually with a couple of scotches under my belt. But I'm very keen to find out how the Illawarra works, because it's a interesting kind of town from the locals that I've met. I mean, you're the weirdest person I know.
Well, anyway, yeah, well, you're the weirdest person I know, so we actually team up.
It's a match made in heaven.
Let's Talk Illawarra is all about the Illawarra, and I think the Illawarra deserves its own podcast, and that what it suggests is let's talk. Let's talk everything regarding from social issues to community issues to council issues to even state issues we can touch on. We have a number of state MPs that are involved in this area, and the whole emphasis on Let's Talk Illawarra is to bring them front and forward and let's talk it out. So I can't wait to bring it to the forefront of the Illawarra, and it should be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We've got some great interviews already set aside. I don't want to discuss too much because, you know, confidentiality and the surprise of the person who we're talking to. We're talking from...
Well, truth be told, you're trying to steal some of my thunder, aren't you?
Reverend Jim, I can never get to your type of level of commentary and interview style.
Is that because you call me a mean bastard when we're not on air?
What did they say? What happens behind the scenes stays behind the scenes. What we envisage for Let's Talk Illawarra is getting to the heart of community, is to let's talk about community. So we are speaking to very high profile VIPs within the Illawarra and Illawarra established, and that will be coming out over the next couple of weeks. I've already spoken to a number of people so far, and we are organising further interviews over the next couple of weeks. And all I can say is the quality of the people within the Illawarra has been underestimated in history. The people that I've spoken to so far bring a wealth of knowledge, absolutely historic value to this world. I absolutely love it.
You know, I'm very interested and very keen to hear what you're doing. We're very, very lucky to have such a sponsor like Iron Monarch Studios. They let us run with what we're doing. Iron Monarch were very, very kind to keep the devil dodger going and, you know, letting me reach out to people and talk about issues that are very hard to discuss sometimes. People find it very hard to actually admit that we have some problems in some of the sectors of the community. And you know, tonight is a topic that I'm very, very passionate about and very, very keen on. And a lot of times people will say, no, let's not talk about that because people deserve to be in prison. They deserve to be treated like shit. They deserve to be just forgotten about. I don't believe that. I haven't believed that for a second. And we're going to get more into that just a little bit later. But yours is a very light, a very community-based thing. And one of the things I've always felt is that it takes a community to raise a child. And when you think about it in the way that you're projecting this show, and the fact that Iron Monarch Studios have said to us, well, yes, let's do this because we believe the same thing. The child is the Illawarra. The child is the local area. And we are bringing up this child together to make sure that it is a healthy, sustainable area for everybody to live.
I hate to admit it because you just shit me like there's no tomorrow. But I actually agree with you. It's the Illawarra is the Illawarra. We're very distinct. We're not the Shire. We're not Sydney. We're not the South Coast. We are the Illawarra. And there has to be a clear distinction between those variables. And that's what Let's Talk Illawarra is set out to be. And it's to bring the important VIPs to the forefront, to get them to have their say on where the Illawarra is going on and how Illawarra's been going. But rightly so. It's a more of a lounge chair type of discussion where I'm not going to press them if they make some remark. It's their show at the end of the day. I'm just there as a host and commenting, basically.
So you're going to be the nice guy. I'm going to be the arsehole, and hopefully both our shows will work in well, and we will share the studio at Iron Monarch. I'll come in and do my thing, and you can disagree with me, and I'll come.
That's like that behind the scenes anyway,
Exactly.
Reverend Jim. Like, we've had some very heated discussions.
And we've only just started working together.
I know, and I'm already speaking to my therapist about it as we speak. But I think we both hold the same moral value, and that is to get to the heart of the story and to get people to be able to speak from their heart and what they really, really want to talk about. So just like you have an interview style, I have an interview style, but I'm going on the lounge chair with a wine, or as the baby boomers say, a shandy. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a shandy and a couple of cheese platters, and we're going to sit back and we're just going to have a discussion on everything Illawarra, and that's going to be fantastic.
And me being from Melbourne, I'm going to be having an espresso and probably a cigarette, and I'm going to be sitting there with my pen ready to bang the table and get the answers that I need. So I think this is going to be a match made in heaven. We'll see how we go. So folks, if you're interested in listening to Talking Illawarra, you don't need to be a part of the Illawarra, but I think it's a very good show that you'll be able to hear what's happening in an area that, in my experience, and as any listeners have heard me speak about over the years, on the different networks, I've been able to travel around Australia. I've been able to travel around the world as Reverend Jim. The Illawarra is a very unique area, and it's in a way, a little bubble that in some ways is lost in time with the attitudes of people, but it's also trying to be progressive. It's a tourist area, but also has the history of the steelworks. It's a very unique area, and can certainly have some very interesting opinions. So have a look on Spotify, have a look on iTunes, have a look on any of your preferred streaming apps, and you'll be able to listen to Let's Talk Illawarra and hear what's going on. Shane is always happy to take any of your emails and ask the questions that you have of any of the people that appear on his show, and let us know what you think, because we're here to provide some good quality entertainment, and the more you give us, the more we can give you. So today, we're actually talking about prisons. Now, prisons I find is a very interesting thing. We all think of prisons as a place to put the lowest of the low, the place to lock people up and throw away the key. And there are certain crimes out there, and I've said this many, many times on many, many shows across many different platforms. There are certain crimes where I personally believe that we need to bring back the death penalty. Now, it is possible, believe it or not, it is possible to bring back the death penalty. Did you know that, Shane?
No, I had no clue.
It is possible to bring back the death penalty, but it's also impossible to bring back the death penalty because you would need to have a referendum. You would need to have majority of states agreeing to it. It's a total mess. We had a referendum about a few different things lately and plebiscites and, whichever side of the fence you were on, whether you agreed with it or not, the problems that we have. But there are certain crimes where I think the death penalty is warranted and should definitely be handed out. There are other crimes that I am in agreement that life imprisonment is a thing that should definitely be there. However, the question that I have, and one thing that keeps me up at night, is when you take away somebody's liberty, do you have the right to be inhumane? And there's a very big difference between taking somebody's liberty and being inhumane. The fact that you're restricting somebody's movements and you're saying to this person that you can never be a part of society again and you will stay in this facility for the rest of your life is one thing. But punishing them on top of that punishment is a very different thing. Now, I'm going to talk as a Victorian here who lived through the COVID lockdown, which is nothing compared to being in prison. But it certainly was a slight taste, not being able to go to the shop that I wanted to, not being able to walk where I wanted to, not being able to leave the house without explaining to a police officer where I was going, what I was doing. That's nothing compared to what prisoners put up with within the corrective services. But it's still a little bit of a taste. And it makes me wonder just how far we go when it comes to punishment. And whether what is happening within the Corrective Services Department is actually helping people. Because let's remember this, they are called the Corrective Services Department. And it doesn't matter what state you're in, it's all corrections. But we're going to focus on New South Wales just for a second. Okay, well, actually, no, not just for a second. We're going to concentrate on New South Wales for this series. Are they correcting people or are they continually punishing people? To me, corrections would be having somebody come in and helping them rehabilitate. In other words, yes, they have made a mistake. And to use a swear word, and we don't normally swear on podcasts, yes, they fucked up. But let's help them come out of the prison system and become productive members of society. But it seems like that's not happening at the moment. It seems to me that what's happening at the moment is more punishment is being given, which is affecting these people who are in the prison system. Now, currently, as of March 2025, 13,103 adults in the New South Wales prison system. Now, let me ask you this question. If you have a loved one who's in prison, how hard is it to get there and see them? When you have a loved one who's in prison, is it helping them rehabilitate to be talking to them through bulletproof glass? Why don't we have systems in place where they can connect with family? Why don't we have systems in place where they can get education? Why don't we have systems in place that when people who have made a mistake can walk out of a prison and be able to have a kickstart in life? I mean, let's look at the system just for 1 second here. If you make a mistake, and we're talking about mistakes, we're not talking about the serious crimes where people should never be released. If you make a mistake and you leave prison with the system the way it is, you are still going to be punished throughout your life. You still have to answer to employers who want a criminal record check. You still have to answer to even a volunteer organisation. If you wanted to give back to the community and join, say, the SES, Marine Rescue, the Rural Fire Service, you still have to do a criminal record check and explain to somebody that you made a mistake maybe 10, 15 years ago. You are paying for this for a very long time. Where is the chance of rehabilitation? Now, I have a very good friend of mine who is part of this podcast today. Her name's Jo, and she runs a page called Jailing Reforms and Truth About Jail. Jo, welcome to the program.
Jailing Truth Exposed.
Jailing's Truth Exposed, yes. I was actually going to ask you that question. Can you tell me a little bit about what your group does and what you're trying to do in the system? And please, if I have said anything in my editorial that's incorrect, please correct me.
Oh, look, I absolutely agree with everything you've said, and I couldn't have agreed more with everything you said. What I did with create a group connects people who had been through incarceration and their families, and trying to connect people and to also understand myself what was going wrong. And what came out of that experience was a lot of people that have been broken and been sent down different paths that were never going to lead anywhere. Like, we're talking about people that have gone to jail for the bare minimum, and some of them are not even guilty for what they've been charged for, and they get out on a plea bargain, having experienced years of trauma, and there's no remedy, nothing offered to them to help them get over it. Like, we're dealing with a system that has got no heart and no conscience for community safety.
Yeah. So with your group, can you give me a bit more information of what it is you actually do and how you're supporting we're going to say, just for sake of ease for the podcast, 13,000 people who are in the New South Wales prison system right now. What does your group do to help?
So what we do is we connect people to people like Sue Higginson, who actually advocate for their rights, because more often than not, the policies and the procedures of the system are not upheld.
Okay.
We've got situations of people not being medicated. We've got a massive crisis where nobody going into jail is adequately assessed.
Yep.
So when you go to jail, you think the first question they'd ask is what went wrong? And what's your feeling towards the crime you've just committed? I mean, I came into this from studying governance in corrective services. That's when I really started to get into it. Like, I created a group, I was talking to people, then I studied governance. and I was really looking at how the system was run itself. So you think, I mean, if a car, okay, I'm going to use a car garage as a cross-reference.
Yep.
If a car goes into a garage, the first question that the mechanic looks at is, what's the problem? What went wrong?
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with human beings. Nobody asked what went wrong. What happened?
Yep.
And there is no encouragement towards remorse, because everyone who's committed a crime, if they're guilty, they should be feeling bad for it.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah. And that's...
There is a process in Norway that I studied, and they actually encourage the person to look back and reflect on the crime they've committed.
Mm-hmm.
So to develop a feeling of remorse.
Yeah. I'm really keen
they don't do that here.
Yeah. I'm really keen to explore the Norway system, and the Norway system is going to be a total other podcast on itself from what I've seen.
Well, in that respect, Jim, I'll tell you, we could actually interview the team that went to Norway.
Yep.
As part of a team that we had officers and professionals that went to Norway to study their system and came back and made changes in America. Our system is not willing to look at that.
Yep.
But yes, we can do that. We can explore that, and they are willing to be interviewed, and I've spoken to them.
Yeah. See, this is something that I'm very, very keen to explore. And one thing that I just want to clarify, because we do have a lot of listeners who have stumbled across the podcast, and we have some listeners in Russia, we have some listeners in the UK, we have listeners who have listened to me for many, many years and have heard you speak to myself and Luke. But can you just give everybody a bit of background on who you are and what's actually got you into this sphere?
Okay, so firstly, my son got out of jail from Goulburn the week that my dad was dying. And that was a mess because I didn't know that correctives wasn't correctives, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And instead of picking up someone who'd been reformed, my son was a complete mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just trying to dodge all the obstacles with him. And instead of dodging them, he ran straight into them.
Yep.
So I didn't get a conversation with my dad when he was dying. That last week, I could not even have a conversation with him. And I really took it personal from Corrective Services that they've released someone in that state to me when they're telling me that he's been corrected.
It can be a very, very hard thing. So that's basically spurred you on to do more training and to actually look into what's happening within the system. And
I can remember sitting on the end of my bed thinking of what name I would call my Facebook group, and I called it Jail and Truths Exposed.
Yep.
Because I swore that every truth that I uncovered, I would expose. Because I wanted to understand what happened. And I believe other people deserve to know.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have known each other for a little while now, when I've seen a lot of the reports that you've sent me. Yeah,
you followed me for a while.
Yes, I've seen a lot of the reports that you've sent me, and I know you've been to a lot of the budget committees. I know that
recent budget estimates.
Yes, yeah, the budget estimates. And you've been on top of this. You're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to what's happening within the prison service.
We have to be, because we deserve, as a community, sorry, I'm going to interrupt there, we deserve as a community to know that we're safe.
Yes.
Every time we get paid at the end of the week, our tax dollars are going somewhere, and one of those places is the Corrective Services. What are we funding? They tell us they are committed to community safety. I beg to differ.
Yeah.
And I can prove it. And I'm very upset as a citizen and a taxpayer, and I've just been working hard again, so I'm tired tonight, but I'm still here because I'm committed to this cause. I'm committed to what your commitment is. And I believe the Australian public deserves to know that we are not funding a correcting service.
Yeah. It's actually quite interesting because, especially in my line of work, I meet a lot of people and a lot of claims are made. And you're one of the few people that can actually send me, paperwork that backs up a lot of what you're saying. And it becomes very scary to me when I'm reading the paperwork that you send me. And they're not random reports, they're budget estimates, they're reports through Corrective Services, and you're looking at them and you're going, well, hang on, why isn't there something that's changing here? Why are we looking at, I'm going to use this term, and I'm also going to introduce somebody else into the podcast as well, because I really do not want to offend him when I say this. And I'd like to introduce everybody to Rhys, who has recently been released from incarceration. And Rhys, please don't be offended when I say this, but basically they're putting people into a prison and they are warehousing them.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And that's
like the amount of people that I've seen come into jail when I've been in there, like they're not in a good place, and they got put in a cell, they get a ration pack. In the morning they come out, they're scared, you know, they don't know anyone, and they go to help to the office at the screws offices, and they don't help them, and they probably get bashed, stood over, but the screws don't want nothing to do with them, so they have to bail out the pot and go to segregation where they don't know yard time and stuff. And I've seen it all.
That's a very scary thing that you tell us, and you know, I brought you in because I didn't want to offend you with the warehousing comment, but can you introduce yourself to us? Just so all of our listeners know who you are. And I'm asking that question very well aware that it is a challenging question, because we rely on a legal system that says innocent until proven guilty. And then you do your time and then the slate's clean. So your slate is clean. So
doesn't feel like that though, but when you know, go in the community and people judge for what you've done, like going for work, for instance, you know, your slate might be clean, but yeah, at the end of the day, you still get judged for what you've done, and it's a bit annoying actually.
So I'm going to ask you the question. You introduce yourself how you would like to, how you feel comfortable, because this is my opinion talking to you. Your slate's clean. You introduce yourself to the listeners the way you would like to.
Yeah, so my name's Rhys. I've recently got out of Kempsey jail, you know, I've done my time. And yeah, I've just been trying to find my way, and Joanne has actually put her hand up and said you can stay with me, and I've really I've got much respect for her, so I appreciate what she does, and I'm just a person trying to live my life out here in a fresh slate, like what you said, you know. And yeah, I've done time, I've done it, and I want to start fresh. So
I'm really keen to explore a little bit more about what your experiences have been in the recent time since you have been released from the prison system. But before we go to our break, I'd like people to have a think about something. Can you tell me what happened the day you were released?
Yeah, so the day I was released, pretty much 8:30 at night, I got a knock on my door, and basically it was the screws coming into my room. Said to me, "You got 10 minutes, pack your stuff, you're going home." And I've sort of basically turned around and said, "Well, can I get released in the morning, because I live in Sydney and I'm in Kempsey at the moment, and that's a big trip, you know, especially at 8:30 at night." So they've said, "Sorry, mate, we can't keep you in past your date, so you have to pack your stuff and you're gonna get someone called. We can give you a train ticket, but that's all we can do for you." So basically, I packed my stuff, went down to reception. I got a phone call to call my brother. He was working. My dad's in Queensland, so I said to him I couldn't, get a lift. So they said, we'll give you a train ticket. Go to Kempsey Station. Your train comes at 12:30 in the morning. And I'm saying to him, mate, I'm not from the area. I don't feel comfortable. Can I get released in the morning? And they still refuse that. So basically, I got dropped off at the train station, no money, at Kempsey at night. No, pretty shit area as well. A lot of crime rate, drugs. So I pretty much stayed at the train station, didn't walk off it, waited for my train 12:30 in the morning, and basically got on the train, went to Central, and my brother caught me from there, which is 6 in the morning. So it was pretty scary, bro. Yeah.
We have a lot of people who are listening, as I said before, who have no idea where anything is in Australia. There are some listeners there who quite legitimately would think that Sydney to Brisbane is a one-day day trip, and then you can drive back home. They don't contemplate the distances that we have in Australia. So can you give us a quick idea, Kempsey to Sydney, how many hours on the train was that?
That was, so 12:30 it came, and I arrived at 6:20 in the morning. So yeah, that's about a 6 and a bit hour trip.
Okay, so let's just round it off. 6.5 hours, just for sake of being easy. 6.5 hours. So you were released at 8:30. You were given your belongings that you went in with, I'm assuming. Did they give you any money for food, or did they give you any?
No, not at all. They gave me a meat pie at reception, and that was it.
A meat pie?
A meat pie, yeah.
They dumped you 6 hours away from home and expected you
6 hours away from home.
And expected you to fend for yourself.
Basically, yeah. And I had money in my property as well, but they said account shut at 4:30, so I couldn't even access my own money.
Okay, can you explain that just a little bit to me? Because that makes no sense. So you had some money.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't.
Yeah, so basically I had like $80 in my jail account.
Mm-hmm.
So they told me if I would have got released before 3:30 in the afternoon, where the workers are still working on accounts in the building, I would have got my money. But because it was 8:30 and I couldn't receive my money, and like they're trying to put that on me, it's like, well, you can get it transferred to your account the next day, but that doesn't help me in that position. So they said we can pay for your train ticket, give you a meat pie, and off you go.
So I guess the blindingly obvious question I have here right now is, why 8:30? What happened that they said, okay, that it seems like a very arbitrary time.
Jim, can I intercept here?
Yeah,
I need to intercept because I actually got a message from his lawyer earlier that day and his brother that he wasn't going to be released for a couple of weeks. So this actual announcement was all of a sudden.
So basically, yeah. So I had the court parole that day before, and they said that I might get my parole back, but we'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 days later, 8:30, I got a knock at the door, and that's when they told me I was going home. So that's a big of a twist, eh?
See, this is the thing that doesn't make sense, and this is where I have some issues with corrections, is there's no rhyme or reason to anything that they're doing. And quite frankly, they've put you in a vulnerable position. 8:30, the train is at 12, so that's 3.5 hours. They've left you on a train station. Now, you've just said that area, and I don't know Kempsey that well. Now, you've said that there's drugs in the area and there's plenty of ways for you to slip back into old habits. And whether you had those habits or not, and I do apologise, I did not mean to assume there. But, you could have slipped into a whole heap of problems while you were waiting for that train to arrive. And then you're ending up
100%.
at Central, where you were lucky enough to have a family member who picked you up. And this is this is the problem that I have.
Jim, I'll intercept there.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a family member who picked him up. What he had was me at TAFE, because I'm studying events, as we know, and we've spoken about this, and that's going to be a conversation for another time. But he rang me while I was at TAFE and told me what had happened, and basically said, I'm going to a motel tonight, or can I come to you? And I said, come to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. It's a very, very scary situation with what's happening with corrections. And folks, you're listening to the Devil Dodger, and we've got a very interesting topic that's happening at the moment. We have Joe, who runs a Facebook group. Joe, the name of your Facebook group is?
Jailing Truths Exposed. And we're getting redirections off the ground through events, which I've spoken to you about.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Jailing Truths Exposed. And we also have Rhys, who recently has been released from prison up in the Kempsey area, who's telling us some very, very interesting stories. I'm finding this very fascinating because I've always hoped that corrections were exactly that, corrections, rehabilitation, and looking after the interests of the community. And I'll be very, very honest here. You know, I'll probably have some mercenary interests here because I'm paying my taxes, and okay, people may screw up, but I want to make sure that people, when they come out of the prison system, are productive members of society. It keeps me safe. Where is the gap? What is going on? There are some problems that are happening within this system, and it is very clear that we need to do a lot more research and a lot more looking into what is happening here. So we have Joe and Rhys, who are currently having a chat with us on this podcast. What we're going to do is we're going to have a quick break, and then we're going to come back and then have a little bit of a chat more, because the one thing I'm very interested in, Rhys, is what happened when you arrived in prison and how the whole system worked from there. Folks, we're going to have some messages from our sponsors, and we will come back shortly.
Everyone has a story. At Iron Monarch Studios, we believe those stories deserve to be heard and seen. From heartfelt documentaries to powerful theatre performances, Iron Monarch Studios captures real life, real voices, and real communities. We specialise in bringing life stories to the screen and stage. Stories of resilience, laughter, heritage, and hope, told by the people who live them. Whether you're looking to share your journey, preserve a local legacy, or be a part of something truly meaningful, Iron Monarch Studios is where it begins. Visit ironmonarchstudios.com or follow us on socials. Iron Monarch Studios, where real life becomes unforgettable storytelling.
Running a business or keeping on top of your personal finances can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. At David King Accounting, we specialise in accounting, business and taxation services designed to make your financial life easier. Our friendly, professional staff are here to answer all your questions, whether you need help with personal tax returns, business bookkeeping, or strategic financial planning. We pride ourselves on delivering courteous, professional service of the highest calibre at a fair price. David King Accounting offers a complete range of services for individuals and small to medium enterprises, including accurate and efficient tax returns for a reasonable tax-deductible fee, helping you maximise your refund by claiming every deduction you're entitled to, zero setup and bookkeeping management to keep your business running smoothly. As David says, if you don't understand tax, I'm not doing my job. That's why we make sure you get clear, easy to understand advice every step of the way. Email us at dking@dking.io or call 0413 738 171 today. David King Accounting, your trusted partner in business and personal success. Proud sponsor of Iron Monarch Studios and Rev Jim the Devil Dodger.
If anything during this broadcast has got you concerned or worried, please feel free to contact Lifeline 24 hours a day on 13 11 14. Or if you're not comfortable talking, you can always text them on 0477 13 11 14. That's Lifeline. Feel free to contact them for any reason. Welcome back, everybody. What an interesting conversation that we're having tonight. It amazes me what happens behind closed doors. And to listen to Rhys and to think about it, you know, I was just outside getting some fresh air and just thinking about sitting on a strange train station waiting for 3.5 hours for a train in a strange town, and looking at the map, Kempsey is not looking like a big town at all, wondering what is going to happen to me. Especially when you've spent time being told when to get up, when to eat, when to watch TV, when to talk to your mates, when to use the bathroom, when to do all these things that we take for granted. And then all of a sudden you're by yourself. And we're not talking about the middle of summer here. We're talking about an area that is fairly inland, so it would not have been a warm day. And you're there with the clothing and the belongings that you went inside with. So let's think about this just for a second, and let's paint a picture here. And this is only a picture. You go in the middle of summer, and depending on what mistake you've made, and there's plenty of mistakes you can make, be it going out for a drink and ending up in a fight or whatever. So you may end up in lockup in thongs, board shorts, and a t-shirt. And then all of a sudden you find you're now a guest of His Majesty. And I have to correct myself because I continually say Her Majesty because we've said it for so long. But all of a sudden you're a guest of His Majesty. And then you're released at a time where it is bloody cold. And you're given your own clothes back. Now, I'm going to be asking Rhys the question in a moment on what they've done and did they give him warm clothes or what they've done for him to make sure that he was safe sitting on that train station. But before Rhys clears up any of our thoughts, let's just think for a moment. That is the potential from what we're talking about right now. So, Rhys, can you clear up some of my thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, like as I was listening to you, you hit the nail on the head there, because when I did get locked up, I was after work and I was in a singlet and shorts. I did have a jumper, but the police took that for evidence, and I never got that back, which I didn't realise until I got released because I didn't have it in my property. So, I was at the train station in shorts and a fucking singlet, mate, and yeah, I was fucking freezing.
Yeah, see, that's very crazy that they would leave you there in the middle of the night and not give you anything to keep you warm. That's basic humanity. We don't leave homeless people out on the street without warm clothing, but we're going to leave somebody who's just been released from prison who is at risk of falling into bad habits, falling into situations that make them exceptionally vulnerable, and that really does concern me.
Yeah, that's it. And like I actually had to go to a pub and sat in the pub until they told me to leave because I wasn't buying anything just to keep warm. So I had to go back to the train station and go behind a wall to try and keep warm.
See, I'm lost for words on that. I really am lost for words on that because again, I just come back to the humanity of the situation. And we're going to revisit this just in a moment, Rhys. But what I'd like to find out from you is what actually happened during your 10-month stay within prison. So we're just going to be logical here for a moment. Obviously, you had the run-in with the police. The police took you to court. The magistrate had turned around and said, okay, Rhys, you've been a bad boy. You're now going to prison for 10 months. Tell me what happened after the magistrate said those words to you. that you are going to go to prison for 10 months. Tell me the steps. What happened?
All right, so before I go on from there, so I went to court and I got bail refused. I didn't get sentenced because I was in on my parole, breached my parole. So I had to do my parole. So anyway, I went to a remand centre named Silverwater. That's where you get processed and stuff. And hello?
Yep. Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. Sorry, it just went fuzzy then.
No, you're right.
So and then basically I went into a pod. It's called Darcy. Obviously got my clothes off, strip search, put new clothes on, bare clothes, and went into a cell. And you're basically there for, could be up to a day, to a week, to a month. It depends how you behave. So obviously I was sort of like being a good boy in there so I can get out of there. So I went to another pod for a night, and then they buzzed me up a day before I was meant to get a visit to go to Kempsey. So basically I went to Kempsey on the escort truck, which is a big trip, and same thing again, I tried to get a jumper for the trip. They said no, you get basically getting onto the truck. So I couldn't have a jumper because when you go in there, it's aircon on there, and usually a lot of people like whinge about the cold, So so we went on the truck. They give us a bottle of water and a muesli bar, and then it's a 7-hour trip. Basically get there, get put in a reception again to figure out what pod to go to. They go on risk assessments and stuff, but they're not really that good on it. And then I got put into a pod. The next day I got out of the room and seen a couple of mates there, so I was sort of like fitting in a bit good already. The officers are in that jail really they're not the great officers that you'll probably think they would be. They're a bit like, what's the word, like racist probably, I could say. They don't like Aboriginals, and I'm part New Zealand Aboriginal, so I got a flag on my arm. So there's a lot of officers there that don't really like Aboriginals because they're the troublemakers, they'll say. And then when I was in there for the 10 months I was there, there's been probably over 60, 70 days of lock-ins since the month I got there until I got out a couple of weeks ago. I kept track of that as well. Could be 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row we've had. We get tablets there to make phone calls if it is a lock-in day, but, some people don't have them, so they can't even talk to family for like 4 days, So other than that, because I've been to jail before, I've sort of known how to live life in there, like which is unfortunate, like it's not really good to say, but being in there wasn't a really good experience this time because I wanted to behave, and people used to always say to me, like the boys in there, like, why are you behaving? Like, why are you listening to the screws? Like this and that, because I wanted to get my parole back, So, and then that's when 10 months goes past. I tried to do programs in there, but because I wasn't a sentenced inmate, you can't do programs, so you have to be sentenced to do programs. So here I am in a pod for like 9 months without working, without any experience for like education, none of that. It was a bit of a hard journey in there this time, but I wasn't trying to muck up in there because I wanted to get out. So, and lucky I did get out. So, yeah.
So the couple of things I need to circle back to just here for a second.
Yeah.
7 hours in the back of a van. And I'm just going to say back of a van. I mean, we've all seen prison transport vehicles and the way they're set up and the like.
Oh, yeah, no cushions on the seats or nothing.
Yep. 7 hours. Continuous driving.
Yeah.
Well, for a start, that goes against the National Heavy Vehicle Regulations, which is a very big surprise to me. I'm very surprised that they weren't able to stop off at a police station 4 hours along the way, because you're only allowed, and these vehicles may not be the heaviest of vehicles, but they are still bigger than a car. I'm wondering why they weren't able to stop at a police station along the way, so the driver at least could have a break.
The only time they stopped was at a servo to get fuel. You got back in the truck and then off you go. Depends what jail. So, like, if you go to Lithgow or Bathurst and all that, you get to stop at another jail to have lunch and that. But when you go to the other way, they didn't do that for some reason. So yeah, they got to try and change that around so we can get arrested out of the truck as well.
Well, that's exactly it. You're in a confined space for such a long time, which is a very big concern. How many people are in?
So it's different. Like it depends on the people, how they assess. So when you got protection in there, you got NA in there, which is you can't mix with people. And then you got the main where I was. So basically, when people are on the truck, they've got to get segregated in that truck. So there could be 2 people at the back, 4 people on the side, 4 people on the other side, 2 in the front and 2 on the other side of the front. So it's all segregated.
So just for those people who don't understand some of the terms that Rhys are using, NA actually stands for non-association, which, for want of a better term, is probably one step down from protection, where, you know, for all intents and purposes, it basically is protection. They don't associate with other prisoners or anything like that. So they obviously have the segregated, the ability to segregate within the trucks as well. And it just feels like a very, very long trip not to be able to at least get out and stretch your legs and
yeah, like it, and you know what's stuffed as well. Like I've been used to it for a long time. So for me to go on a truck for that long, I'm just used to it, you know.
So you said you were on parole, so you hadn't been convicted of any crimes?
So basically, no. Like, so when I got locked up, obviously they had to prove it all the way through for the 10 months. So I ended up at the end pleading guilty because I couldn't get no more jail time because I had to do my parole. So basically parole, which I thought I was meant to happen, is I was meant to get out in a few weeks. So that's why it really shocked me 2 days after when they come to my cell at 8:30 to tell me I'm going home. And to me, I'm thinking, like, is this like real? Like, is this actually happening? Like 8:30 at night, I'm in bed and they're doing this to me. So it didn't seem real, but yeah, that's what happened, man. And I hope it just doesn't happen anymore to anyone like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a bit more about the reception. Now, you said that some of the officers were less than welcoming to somebody of your background. Now, one would hope in this country that you would be getting assistance that you need, mental health assistance, medical assistance, and those kind of things. Were you able to see medical professionals at the prison?
So when I first went to reception, you get to see the nurse to get assessed. Say if you're on any, say for instance, if you're on methadone or bupe, or you're on pills that you need to take. So I basically went in there and seen them, and like, cause I wasn't on anything at the time then, I was sweet. And then I was meant to see, what are they called? Like a person you see before going to help you with your phone calls and that. I had a phone call, but I couldn't get through. And I asked if I could call back, and they said no, because there was 10 other people that need to come through. So that took about 4 days until I can get in touch with my family. And so, yeah, that I could keep going on about that. But at reception, yeah, there was this officer there that didn't really like, which I think in my experience that he was racist, because the things that I asked for, I didn't get, and other people had asked for and they got. So what is that, because I've got a flag on my arm, or is that because you don't like me for some reason? Or so different officers obviously operate differently, and they think some use their power too much.
Yeah. I think that's the same in any profession. I'm well aware that my brother and sister ministers can be very, very different in the way they treat people The rainbow community is probably the best example I can give, where majority of the ones that I work with are very accepting, whereas others can be right bastards and that kind of stuff. I think that no matter where you are, that can be a very big problem. The other thing that I'm interested in, again, the most exposure that people have to prisons is TV. Yep. Now, you could go back in the day, and I'm just having a guess that you're a young fella. I'm not a young fella.
Yeah, I'm 33.
Okay. I remember watching TV shows like Porridge.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that one?
Well, I've heard, but I don't think I have, no.
So, Porridge was a comedy set in a prison, and the main thing was little victories and keeping the little victories going and keeping your sense of humour. And anybody who's got any sense would know that that's not the way that prisons work. I mean, the prisoners had ties and belts and, shoelaces and all that kind of stuff. And then you go on to pay TV, and then you see the American version of prisons, which are quite frankly rank. Somebody's sitting there trying to eat their lunch while somebody is defecating in the toilet next to them.
Yeah.
We're talking polar opposites here. What's the state of play within a New South Wales prison?
Yeah, so like if you get put into a cell at a remand centre where you first go in, it is pretty rank, like it is disgusting. You get put into a cell for like, say, a couple of hours because there's changeovers when you get off the truck, and it is like disgraceful how like that cell is in there. There's toilet paper with piss on it thrown at cameras. There's meat pies on the ground. It's been there for weeks, so it's gone mouldy. Like it's just spit on the windows. There's no sweepers there that clean the cells. That's how it felt,
Mm-hmm.
And in your cell, in your room, you're all right. So your bed is right near the toilet. So when you get up, you got to say to your cellmate, mate, I've got to, go use the toilet. So can you turn around or put a blind up, or, I used to get a wick. So I used to get a little razor blade and get batteries to make a little spark, and it used to light the toilet paper, and so the smoke comes off it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I used to diffuse the smell. So I got some respect for my cellmate.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do that. They don't give us any spray bottles, or you can't have them there. So we got to think of it ourselves.
It concerns me, the mental health of people when you're having to defecate next to somebody who's trying to sleep. And, you've lived that life for 10 months. And, we used to have a term called battle fatigue. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I don't know can you give me the explanation of it?
Well, basically these days we'd call it PTSD.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So what you've gone through for the last 10 months, it's very hard to readjust into a normal life where you can actually go into a bathroom by yourself and, you can walk into another room and make yourself some Vegemite on toast without somebody telling you what to do, or you can go and sit on a lounge and turn on the TV. It's a very weird feeling. How are you coping with that after 10 months of being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it?
Yeah. So, all right. So, for example, when I used to eat food in jail, I usually put my elbows around my food and have it to myself instead of trying to display it to anyone. So, out here when I eat, probably Joe seen this as well, maybe. But when I eat, I still do that sometimes, and I usually pick up my plate and eat sometimes like that. It used to be like a defense, like in jail,
Mm-hmm.
So, and not only that, it's affected me so much that when I walk, I hear keys and that, I always look around and, or they're behind me or something, but I'm out. I shouldn't be doing that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just leaves so much trauma like in there. You know, you just got to deal with it out here. I'm trying to deal with it as best as I can. But I know I got the sport out here this time, and yeah, I want to use it. You know.
Yeah, support. That's a very interesting word.
Yeah,
And with
there wasn't none of that in there. That's for sure.
with the support that you're getting from Joe,
Yes, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
do you feel like you will fall back into some of the issues that took you to prison before?
No, not how Joe's been treating me, and how I feel welcome, and I never used to have this, you know.
So I guess the most important question I've got, and I know it's burning for a lot of people who are listening right now, where do you see yourself in the next year?
I'm hoping to have a job and to have my life back with my two daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've got to work on myself first, which I'm doing right now with the help of Joe. And I've never used to have the chance to do this because I was never in a good headspace or in a good place. So now that I am, I'm taking every advantage of that I can.
Okay.
So yeah, I just want to be a normal citizen. You know, I've done my time. I've got a clean slate, and I'm ready to work, and I'm ready to show the world that I'm up for anything.
No, that sounds good. What kind of job would you want?
So the other day I've just got my RSA and RCG. So I want to like help out in a pub or somewhere small.
Mm-hmm.
And then until I get my confidence boosted up, and then I can work somewhere bigger. So I just want to get my foot on the ground somewhere and yeah, get a normal paycheck instead of being on Centrelink.
No, I can understand that 100%, and it's very admirable that you want to get out there, and the fact that you're actually getting qualifications. And hospitality is one of those industries that are always desperate for people, and good workers are very hard to come by, especially when it comes to hospitality. And if anyone is listening who has any kind of hospitality work, who's willing to give somebody a go, send me an email, please do, and I'll pass it definitely on to Rhys. We're talking about the northern areas of New South Wales, Central Coast, Newcastle kind of areas. Let me know what's happening, and if you want to give somebody a go, please feel free to reach out. I'm going to flick back to Joe just for a second here, because there are a lot of questions that are burning on this topic, and we're going to be talking about this over several episodes. And I know this is a question that Shane has asked me in the break, and I'm going to actually get Shane to ask this question because it is his question, not mine. Shane, what did you want to ask Joe?
The question is, where did you find this absolutely heat in your heart to pursue this topic? I understand that your son was incarcerated and he has been released. What has gotten you to a point where you want to continue this further?
Okay, well, I'll just say that he's been actually reincarcerated. So typical of the system, eh?
Sounds like it.
But it's just an absolute joke. I mean, I come from the Nimbin area, so around Murwillumbah.
Right.
And I did suffer a lot of stuff as a young child. Like, my mother was a drunk, and she was ruthless with men.
Right.
And I had children when I shouldn't have. I was too young. I was molested by my stepfather, and I got forced to release him from the accountability. And there was a lot of stuff that happened for me as a young person. And essentially, I got denied going down a path of accolades and achievements and I wasn't even locked up.
Right.
I just suffered what I did because of trauma.
Sure.
And I also had a really good dad who made me familiarize myself with like people like World War veterans, for example.
Yep.
Refugees. He used to play a lot of the Pogues music. But in the mix of that, I was around a community that was essentially strong because it stood together.
Right.
I got to see people working on veggie patches and milking cows, and it doesn't really happen anymore, but bartering essentially.
Okay.
And if kids were naughty, they'd be, we'd go out for an extra walk, or we go down the creek or something like that. To now it's normal to lock up 10-year-olds. Yet since like Creator Jail and Truth Exposed, the amount of people who come to me that say, look, what destroyed me was they locked me up when I was a child.
Right, got you.
So it doesn't, it's not getting anywhere. I've been through enough trauma in my life. I'll just brief on it, okay, who I am and some of the stuff I've seen.
Sure.
But for me, I was always, because I had that familiarity of community and being from the Northern Rivers and from the Nimbin area, and Sue Higginson, who I do work with, and a lot of listeners will know who Sue Higginson is. She's also from the Northern Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to farming. We go back to work. We go back to doing things, to being constructive, to being productive. We don't just sit there and be idle. Now,
right.
When Rhys talks about lock-ins, we're talking about people sitting in cages and doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Since when did that avail to teach anyone anything?
So what?
You don't teach someone by sitting them in a cage and denying them even the basic of nutrition, or they've got a headache, so they've got to beg for Panadol. Like that's barbaric, and you're not going to teach someone to be a better citizen. So for me, it was a combination of my own experiences, hearing a whole bunch of stories that were so wrong, spending 18 months studying governance and looking internationally to the Norwegian model and seeing how that was implemented in America through a program called Amend,
mm-hmm.
and actually seeing real change, real people coming to a place of reform, and convicted criminals breaking down and saying, I'm sorry and I really want to make amends. We don't even give people that chance here. At the moment, I can, just for information, and Rhys was with me at the budget, they have just announced that they have got that many people off, and it's no surprise, on psychological injury. People are not working anymore. I was speaking to an officer yesterday who was raped by a colleague. I've been speaking to a couple of these officers that have been working with, they've gone in with the best intentions. They can't work in there. They're off. They're not going back because they're not being treated right. Now, they're not even looking after their own employees.
Okay, so
we've got a system.
Where do you want to go with all this? What's the outcome that you're looking for?
What I want to do is I want to build individual communities back to being resilient and strengthening communities in themselves, because look, we've got kids going wild, but what people don't realise is the amount of money the government gets for locking kids up. Yeah. We're not even looking up. We're not teaching them anything. We're better to return them to cadet training or military training or defense level training.
Yeah.
To teach them some sort of discipline and respect. I'm looking back to what used to make Australia great. What is a community? I think we've lost sight of that in all of this progress and moving into all these new advancements. We've lost sight of the community, and if the community's not strong, if the individual, the family, the community's not strong, we're not going to be strong, and we're going to continue to have all this sort of stuff. Just look at the news. Recently in Sydney, we're having stabbings on the increase. We're having bashings, domestic violence, shootings, and a lot of these. What really saddens me is some of these shootings have actually been accidental, and they're killing the wrong people.
I mean, there's so many things that we can open up within this topic, and
that's what I mean.
the
his true way. But what do we get back to?
the
Unity.
the one thing that
Strengthen the community, and we will be strong and resilient.
yes, the one thing that we do need to mention though is some of the topics that we are touching on can be very triggering and can be very touchy for some people. So please remember, if you are feeling triggered, if you do need some assistance, if you do need to talk to somebody, please reach out to Lifeline. Lifeline, their contact number is 13 11 14. If you're not comfortable talking with anybody, please text them on 0477 131114. Lifeline is available 24/7. You can message them at any time if you're feeling uncomfortable with anything that we're talking about, or anything that we're talking about that is triggering you. Joe, I've been looking at some programs where they're looking at empowerment, and I feel empowerment is a very big thing. And my biggest concern...
You have to empower the individual, the family, and then the community.
Yes, exactly.
We've actually lost sight of that.
Exactly.
We've lost sight of that. Like, we've got, like, the Bondi stabbing was essentially because there was someone he's got mental issues. He wasn't being monitored, yet we can't even defend ourselves with things like capsicum spray. People in New South Wales are trying to fly out capsicum spray from Western Australia, and we can't because it's illegal. Yet they've just legalised it in the Northern Territory.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly something that
Where's our self-defence? We are not reforming people. We've just heard how, and believe me, Rhys is a friend of mine, and I'm so glad that I've been there for him, because I actually just heard of someone that was released from the same jail because they have nowhere to go. Do you know what they did? They destroyed a police car just to go back to jail, because there is nowhere, there is no one, and there is nothing.
There are so many topics on this issue to discuss, and self-defence is something that I'm actually working towards getting a panel on.
We have the right to defend ourselves. Why are we not allowed to carry capsicum spray? They're just legalised in Northern Territory.
Well, exactly, and we again, it's something we're going to bring a panel in on, and I'd like to invite you in on that as well. But I would like to just circle back 1 second for the education. Now, Rhys, you were saying that you were on parole, but they wouldn't let you do any education.
Yeah, so I was basically on parole, yeah.
So my question is to you. You have an RSA. Did you do that in prison, or did you do that?
No, I only done that 2 days ago. I got the RSA and the RCG.
So this is, and because this is the first podcast regarding prisons, regarding how prisons treat people, this is the biggest point, and probably the most important point out of everything. You spent 10 months in prison. Then you came out and did a 2-day course. Why, in God's name, did you not have the chance, and I'm going to say, have the chance to do that in prison? Because if you were able to do that in prison, in the last 10 months, you would already be 5 steps ahead of what you are now. Because now you've got to take your certificate to Services New South Wales, get your photo, wait for that, and do everything else. You could have already been halfway there, providing, and this is something that I've had to deal with people who've come out of different correctional centres, and I'm going to get your answer here because I know we're running short of time.
Yeah,
providing
I can basically narrow it down to like, when we get locked in jail, there's a lot of lock-ins. So when a lock-in happens and we're meant to do something or have a program, that gets shut down because it's a lock-in. So it could be 3 lock-ins a week, so we don't get a chance to do anything. Not only that, is because I'm on parole, so I'm an unsentenced and sentenced inmate. For unsentenced inmates, we can't do courses. That needs to change because, for instance, for me, 10 months on remand, I was not sentenced. I couldn't do any courses, and now that I'm out, The jail did not help me at all. So if they change that and we can do courses in jail with unsentenced inmates, and we do get out, we still have that in our back pocket. You know what I mean? Like we weren't just sitting in there rotting.
Well, that's exactly it. And the other point I was just about to make was, if you happen to end up in the prison system and you don't have any ID, you get a photostated copy with a photo that looks like absolute garbage that is supposed to be ID.
It's a mugshot.
That's supposed to be ID for you to be able to try and get legitimate ID, for you to be able to get the identification that you need to be a citizen within the state of New South Wales. So we have a big problem there as well.
Jim, may I intercept?
Yep.
I just wanted to say that I've got a very good friend of mine who is in jail at the moment, and he inputs a lot of information, and you know who I'm talking about. Now, he, amongst others, are struggling to get a computer in an actual minimum security prison.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this prison is supposed to be like where people are released from. It's got the facilities to have a vegetable garden, to have woodworks, to have metalworks, and to have a horse stud. Yet there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's nothing, and they don't engage people in anything, and the actual council wants to get these guys involved in more works release, and the prison system is too lazy to engage them, people are essentially sitting in there on drugs. So we've got a massive issue of contraband. It's not just the inmates bringing it in either.
Oh, look, contraband is a whole...
And people, instead of being encouraged to be engaged in productive educational programs, and like my friend's trying to do a uni degree, he's had to take the semester off because he can't get his hands on a computer. We have got people denied education in jail.
Yeah, and look, contraband is going to be a whole nother topic, and you and I have spoken on other networks about contraband and how it can be brought into prisons and stuff like that. And this is something that I would like to devote another...
Well, if you're bored and you can't educate, you can't do a course even in jail. Like, look, I'm working towards what I want to do, which you know what I'm doing. I can't just attend tape. So I've actually elected completely for online learning only now.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do all my practical. These guys don't even have access to online learning.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell me that Corrective Services can't control the access only to online learning. Why aren't these guys sitting in there doing tape courses?
Mm-hmm.
Surely that's a plausible thing, isn't it?
Look, 100%. And, you know, we've got so many episodes that we're going to be looking at. And I think education is going to be one. Getting contraband in is going to be another one. There's a lot of things that we do certainly need to discuss. But I have one last question. And again, I'm very interested within our first podcast, and just to get people an idea of what's happening within the prison and that kind of stuff, is I'm very, very interested in healthcare. I'm very interested in healthcare for a very simple reason. You cannot let somebody out of any facility if they're sick. Now, each state has a different healthcare service that looks after prisons. Now, within New South Wales, I believe it's called Justice Health. And I'm going to flick back to Rhys just for a second here.
Yep.
What was the healthcare like? Now, I don't know if you were sick in the prison. I don't know if you needed help while you're in the prison. But I'm going to make an assumption here, because everybody lives in close quarters, that you saw people who were sick. You saw people who needed help. Did they get the help that they needed? Did they actually get treated?
So, coming from my experience, Basically, there was a few people that were sick mentally, also physically. So the officers treat them like this. They put them in a segro cell until they get assessed by mental health and the justice health. Justice health nurses as well. They don't work for the jail. You know what I mean? So they're more friendly. And when they wanted to get the prisoner out, officers said, "No, he's not in a safe space at the moment." And this is he locked in the pod for like 2-3 days straight, and he had to fake a heart attack to get out of the cell to get detention.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just disgusting. So, and for instance, for me as well, I was like going through some stuff as well, and I was a bit like mentally ill as well. So I suffered from paranoia, you know. So I won't get into that, but it took 10 months, and I still have not seen a doctor. I got released. I had to go to a doctor on the outside for my health, but 10 months it took. It's just the waiting in the jails are just disgraceful. So, yeah.
So, just to confirm what you said so everybody is clear, you have prison officers with no more training than a first aid certificate, gatekeeping who can see medical professionals.
100%. 100%. There's probably like 10, 15 of them in there. And that's in Kempsey.
Okay. So I'm going to reiterate this one more time so people can hear what you're telling me. Prison officers with no medical training. So they may have a first aid certificate, they may have an advanced first aid certificate, but they do not have medical training. So they could not go in and work in a hospital and treat patients as a civilian, are gatekeeping and telling you whether you can see a medical professional or not.
Exactly.
I don't know what to say to that.
It's disgraceful.
That scares me. I mean, we had a situation in Victoria where a prison officer refused somebody care. The nurse was there watching a movie and the poor lady died in the cell. Yeah, and that's all over the news in Victoria. So the same thing's happening here in New South Wales.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it a lot, man. Like not to extent like that, but for me to wanting to get on to speak to my husband about it. But in jail, you cannot do that because somehow we call them turtlebacks in jail, but the squad somehow they find out and they give you a little night call at night and strip search you and just make it known.
Wow. That scares me. That scares me.
Oh, it scared the shit out of me too. Having someone come at like 12, 1 in the morning, whatever time it was, you know, coming into your cell, turning the light off, telling you get the fuck out of bed. Oh, mate, it's horrible.
I'm really fascinated by this topic. And there is so much for us to explore. We've got contraband, education, humanity. Is it really the Department of Corrections? It doesn't sound like it. Or is it more the Department of Inhumane Punishment? We haven't even talked about food yet. I mean, that's another topic all on itself. And, you know, please don't.
There's a lot more. Yeah,
yeah, please, let's not get into food at the moment because we are running out of time. But
hey, Jim, I've been able to cook with my friend recently. It's been absolutely amazing. He's an amazing chef too.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to come up and try his food. So we've got...
Oh, you will?
Food. Clothing. We've got so many things to discuss here. This is a never-ending topic. And, you know, let's be clear from what I said right at the start of this whole podcast. There are people who deserve to be in prison for the rest of their life. And I am not a fan of inhumane treatment. There are some people that I would probably prefer for them to never live or breathe another breath. But while society takes responsibility and takes away liberty, we have a responsibility. Now, if we want to have a referendum and we want to change things and turn around and say, let's bring back the death penalty, or let's bring back a different form of punishment for certain offences, then I'm full for it. But right now, we're in a situation where we take away liberty, but we do not have any right to take away humanity. People still have a right to be treated like humans. People still have a right to be treated with respect and dignity. And from 100%. What Rhys is telling us right now, that is not happening. Just by the simple fact alone, and I asked Rhys to confirm this twice to make sure that we had it right.
And this is just my experience. So I'm all for it for people to get involved as well who's had the same experience. Just you can go no more. Just, have a chat with someone, get involved and tell your story.
Yeah, absolutely. But just from your own words on this broadcast, unqualified. And I will die on this hill. A first aid certificate, an advanced first aid certificate, does not make you qualified to make medical decisions. That's why we have OOO. When you do a first aid course, an advanced first aid course, oxygen therapy, EpiPen, you are told if you cannot do any harm, if you can't do any good, don't do any harm. You call a medical professional. We are told to call OOO in a prison. Surely, I don't know whether it's OOO in most prisons, but surely you would call the nurses.
So you can put your name, all they tell you to get a request form, put your name down, and you don't see nurses for like a week time. So it's got to change in there.
That sounds absolutely crazy to me. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
You don't hurt people when you take away their liberty because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, let's just do a little bit of history, backtrack back to the 2021 Buckley riots that were when it was a lot of people were like, the roof is on fire. Well, it certainly was because of the inmates lit the place on fire. Let's not forget the 4 of them were unmedicated schizophrenics.
Wow.
And one of the guys had actually been locked in a cell and his water turned off. So when he was defecating, he wasn't able to flush it and he wasn't able to drink fresh water. So that was the cause of the 2021 riots in Parklea.
See, that is where it just gets crazy. I mean, look, we have covered quite a lot today. And it is a very, very, very interesting topic. And, we have Joe, who's with us, who has spent many years now looking into the prison system, who has a burning passion due to personal circumstances about what's happening within the prison system. She's constantly doing courses and supplying me with so much information that I was not even aware of. And, even members of parliament are now taking notice of the work that Joe is doing. We also have Rhys, who's recently just been released from the prison system, who's telling us what it's like on the inside. It is an absolutely amazing story, and I am here in amazement. And there is a lot more to talk about. I know we have a lot more to discuss. And Joe, Rhys, you and I are going to be in contact regularly. And we're going to be doing some more chats on air. And I'm lost for words. I mean, Shane, what do you think?
I'm just like you. I'm pretty much lost for words.
Did you have any idea it was like this? As somebody who It has nothing to do with the jail system. We go out, we do our jobs, we come home, we drink our bourbon, we have our chats, we have our barbecues. We don't think about what happens in a prison. I mean, you sit there and go, oh, these arseholes, they should just go to jail and, throw away the key. But is it really the same when you realise, as Rhys just said, that unqualified people are being gatekeepers to health and people are getting sick? And Joe just said a prison was set on fire because schizophrenics were unmedicated. It changes what you think.
I think it comes down to ignorance is king. And at the end of the day, unless it's brought forward to the media or a podcast like this, you just don't know. You just take things for granted. Tomorrow's another day and you move on. And I think by bringing this to the forefront, I think there's going to be a lot of people educated into what actually happens behind the scenes and what actually goes on. I refer to Joe's website. I'm just commenting on it now and I'm just scanning through it, and I'm learning more and more just looking at what's going on. It's a topic that I think all Australians need to understand, but I think internationally, I think it's a topic that everybody needs to understand on what happens behind the scenes. Who eats what, how, why, and when. When are the lockdowns or lock-ins, according to this website, happen? What happens here? What happens there? And what's the miscommunication between what we get told in the general media to what reality is? And I think by breaking down these barriers at the moment, it's going to make a huge difference. But going back to your original comment, I'm lost for words in regards to what you hear, because I think, as I stated before, you have some sort of a basic understanding on what prisons are like. Then you only have to scratch the surface, and here we are.
Well, just look at the lock-in topic alone. And, being a Victorian and going through lockdown and having my own liberty restricted, I have no idea or no concept, only the slightest of taste of what it'd be like to be locked in. Let's just say hypothetically, and I'm sure Rhys or somebody is going to come out with exact measurements, but let's just say, for want of a better word, 2 meters by 6 meter cell with another human. You shit, you eat, you sleep, you shower in the same room. There is no privacy. There is no dignity. There is absolutely nothing. And how do you have any personal space when you're sharing such a small quarter?
I think you've nailed it on the head where you said dignity. And I think that's where it's lost, is, the human dignity of it all. And even though, the old adage is you do the crime, you do the time, but you still need to have some dignity there where you do have that some sort of a safe space or some sort of human aspect to this. But I think just by hearing what's going on lately, and especially during this podcast, I think dignity is out the window. I can't wait to the next episode of this discussion. I think Australia needs to hear. Australia needs the truth. Australia needs to have that type of raw information and have it the way it is. So I'm looking forward to the next podcast.
The interviews that I've done over the time that I've been lucky enough to talk to people, and be it face to face or here on podcasts and that kind of thing, raw is my thing. And to be able to expose what's going on, especially within the prison system, is a very dear thing to me, because Yeah, I'm mercenary. I want people to come out of prison and become productive members of society. I don't like the fact that people are going back into jail. I don't like the fact that people are going back to crime. And we need safe, productive members of society. And why isn't jail correcting them? It's corrective services. Yeah, so I encourage everyone to have a really good look at Jailing Truths Exposed. We're going to be coming back with another podcast. I'm very keen to know more about the lockdowns. I'm very keen to know more about food and clothing and treatment. Justice Health is going to be possibly a series on that as well. So we've got a lot to talk about. And, Joe, Rhys, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast and this introduction to what I hope is going to be a wonderful series that's going to educate a lot of people, but not just education, also potentially making some change.
Thank you so much, Jim. We much appreciate you. And look, it's been an interesting journey, and I am as a mother, I'm absolutely floored by the system. But I am so encouraged when people like you grab up the baton and go, let's go. Like, you've given me so much courage to continue. And Rhys also, like getting out like he did, but he came to me and he's picked up his little baton and gone like everyone who I speak to is committed to working a long-term journey. And we know that we will work the long-term journey into educating the Australian public as to why this system is not correcting crime. We are not reforming people. We are not turning lives around. We are just making more crime.
Look, absolutely.
You can't just lock someone in a cell and say, oh, I'm correcting them.
No.
Correcting is a journey. It requires an assessment of the actual situation and a turning around of that circumstance, because people don't just wake up overnight and go, I'm going to commit a crime. That is never going to be part of anyone's vocabulary. Look, we need to turn that around, and we need to wake the Australian public up, because we are not protecting ourselves from crime. We are not reforming crime, and we are certainly not directing people who have committed crime into new directions.
Look, I agree.
And that's just not going to happen until we turn around and we actually work together as a community and we start to reform criminals.
Agree 100%. And, Rhys, I'm going to be honest with you. And, everyone can hear exactly what I'm saying here and that kind of stuff. I mean, you and I don't live in the same area, but if you were in the same area with the story that you've told me and that kind of stuff, I would be happily helping you get some work if you were in my area. And I do encourage anyone who's willing to give somebody a chance, the Central Coast, Newcastle, northern kind of area, those areas around there. If, you're listening and you want to give somebody a chance, let us know and we'll put you in touch with Rhys and you can meet him yourself and gauge for yourself what's going on here. And, everybody needs a chance in life. We've all needed a chance. I remember when I first started podcasting, radio and that kind of stuff, I was given a chance. I was a lonely little priest looking after homeless people on the streets of Melbourne when I first got my chance. So, we all need a chance. That's what it's all about. And I encourage you all, if you have been triggered by anything that we've said, because we've touched on some topics that are quite triggering, please don't hesitate to call Lifeline 13 11 14. If you don't feel comfortable, feel free to text them on 0477 13 11 14. This has been the Reverend Jim. Big thank you to Rhys, a big thank you to Joe, a huge thank you to Shane for producing this podcast for me, and we will be putting out a new podcast very soon. And don't forget, folks, for those of you who are living on the south coast of New South Wales, who live in New South Wales, who are interested in what's happening within local government or local areas, or if you're just a sticky beak, feel free to listen to Let's Talk Illawarra, because that's going to have some interesting information. And Shane is biting at the bit to get his voice out there and have his own podcast. So feel free to give him some support. So, folks, thank you so much for listening to The Devil Dodger, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Brothers and friends, and this is our church. When we get together, for better or worse, we all understand this is our church.
If anything during this broadcast has got you concerned or worried, please feel free to contact Lifeline 24 hours a day on 13 11 14. Or if you're not comfortable talking, you can always text them on 0477 13 11 14. That's Lifeline. Feel free to contact them for any reason.